Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of the Horizon Terminal podcast. I am Medic.
And I'm Lamb Chop, and I wanted to start off by saying a humongous thank you to everybody who's been listening to Saturn Return, our latest EP, which came out a few weeks ago. A lot of you guys have been bumping it, you've been giving us positive feedback, and just connecting and vibing along with the tunes. We are so thankful for each and every one of you. Thank you for enjoying that music. And actually, we wanted to start a mini-series on the podcast where we talk about the stories about just kind of what kind of went on in our heads, in our lives, and also in the recording process when we were coming up with Saturn Return, which we recorded and conceptualized in like 2 weeks when you came to visit. Speaking of, journeys, you're definitely in a strange place. What kind of journey
am I?
Yeah, what journey have you been on?
So, since Saturn Return came out, a week after that, I actually flew to New York with my girlfriend. And we've been staying in this temporary apartment. We're staying here for the month of July, and throughout the past couple of weeks, it's been pretty hectic, exciting but hectic, between apartment hunting and also just getting used to a new city, and the fact that I've also been trying to get more and more involved in the local scene. So I've been going to a lot of these producer-related events, meeting a lot of like-minded people that I've also been talking to on Instagram for a while now. So it's just been a very positive, encouraging vibe that I've been getting through going to all these events. And now that, to tie it back to the series that we're trying to work on for the next few episodes, it actually started from the post that we've been dropping on the Horizon Terminal Instagram. So we've been posting a lot of these mini cuts of old Hong Kong cinema footage to Saturn Return, and we've also been posting some of these behind the scenes footage of us jamming, of us coming up with certain riffs from different Saturn Return songs. So some of you have said, you kind of like seeing how things are conceptualized. So we thought we could expand on this by doing the next few episodes on specifically talking about each and every song and how we conceptualize it and so on and so forth. So this, I guess we, without further ado, take us away with Final Boarding.
Mm-hmm. Right, so our first track off the EP is something called Final Boarding, and that just starts us on the journey. And what we imagined with the whole EP is that there's a protagonist who goes through his or her own Saturn Return journey, and at the beginning of the journey, we were thinking about, well, where's a place, like a physical place that symbolizes the beginning of a journey. And what we came up with was an airport terminal at the gate, and that anxiety that you feel sitting at the gate right before, for example, right before you move to New York, that feeling, I'm sure that you were feeling at that point was some mix of anxiety and excitement. Something was about to happen, the embarking on this journey. And one of my favorite parts of writing that intro is the little synth thing I came up with. I started the whole album with the major seventh, right? The dun 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 dun. dun. Yeah. And then of course it goes into the voice of the announcer, right? Trying to emulate how that voice kind of summons you to the gate and pulls you on the journey and pushes you down this kind of direction. So one of the biggest questions people ask me with the whole EP is like, who is that voice? And why does it sound slightly weird? What's the story there?
Yeah, so in line with the whole space flight theme, So we kind of envisioned this world in the not so distant future where, perhaps commercial space flight will be just just all around us, and then also in that time, a lot of these things will have been automated, and then robots will be a part of our everyday lives. So we kind of just wanted to look for a voice that sounds as close to human as possible, but also remaining a robot voice. So we kind of just searched online everywhere, looking for all these different text-to-speech engines, and playing around with different options. And for some of them, you can even choose different accents. So we finally settled on this one where you can pick like a British accent. It's kind of elegant, and it's kind of soft spoken and puts you at ease a little bit. So yeah, that's kind of the story behind it. And we did a little bit of tweaking and post production to make it sound just a little more human. But yeah, that's the story behind the famed voice.
Yeah. So yeah, you can't hire her, unfortunately. And that kind of takes us to the end of that song. Of course, with the reverb tail, there is this bell chime sound, and that kind of, in my mind, I kind of saw it as like you kind of arrive at your destination,
Yeah.
in a way, and that kind of brings you to track 2, which is Boquete Bay.
Right.
Now, at the end of Final Boarding, we use that kind of ambience, that ambient sound.
Right.
And you'll notice that that's kind of a recurring thing throughout our compositions. Like I said, one of the songwriting processes that you and I go through is we sketch out and we describe a scene. Like we paint the scene first, and then we use the music and the instruments to describe that place, So if it's a daytime, if it's nighttime, if it's cold or if it's hot, if there's a lot of people, if there's nobody, what does it sound like, right? So we hopefully use those to transition, and also play with the idea of like seamless transitions between the songs, right? We wouldn't have like blank silence, which is normally what you would have. So thus hopefully tying the whole thing together a bit more conceptually, right? Yeah, so I think, do you have anything more to add about that?
Yeah, so I just to add one more point is the fact that we tried to compile this into one gapless playback album means that a lot of these transitions we actually make sense harmonically. So so for example, with Final Boarding, it's actually in the key of G major, and the relative minor of that is actually E minor, which is also which happens to be the key of Boquete Bay. So you'll kind of see the more deeper into the series we get, the more of these you'll also get to hear.
Yeah, so speaking of that, next week we are going to talk more about Boquete Bay, that kind of destination, that beautiful place that you're dreaming of, or maybe you arrive at, following your final boarding, following that call of, fate or what have you. And you can look forward to that in next week's episode. So again, I just wanted to end by saying thank you so much for listening to Saturn Return. We hope you continue to enjoy it, and also to tune into this mini-series as we share more of the stories and behind-the-scenes experiences that we had creating this music. So thank you so much. Peace out, and we'll see you guys next week.
Oh.